I'm here with Robert Atwood from Hummingbird Drones. This is the same building that 6 years ago I met Robert. Robert and his partner Richard had come up with an idea. They had just finished wildfire season, fighting fires, and they had an idea that they were going to be able to use drones to actually help the wildfires in a province that were going just horrible at that time. Robert, if you can fast forward, because right now, 6 years later, you guys are the leading authority in Canada when it comes to the use of drones and fire suppression. So maybe if you could take us through a Coles Notes version of how you got from that idea to where you're at now, and then really importantly, what is this monster of a drone that you brought here today?
Yeah, I'd love to, John. Thanks a lot. So as John mentioned, my business partner and I, Richard Sullivan, met as initial attack firefighters when we were working for the BC Wildfire Service. And 6 years ago, drones were kind of at this different space than they are now. They weren't as well known, and really, like, in terms of the excitement level, people really didn't understand the technology, and it got a big wow factor whenever we met with somebody. And so me and Rich were kind of affected by that same wow factor, and we decided as firefighters that there was a big opportunity for drones to impact the way that fires were managed. And we were both in university at the time, here at TRU in Kamloops, and we came back from our fire season, and we brought our idea to the Generator, which is an incubator for student companies. And through that, we ended up meeting John, and really just started to get focused on what exactly we wanted to accomplish and how we wanted to accomplish that. Specifically around focusing on wildfire right from the beginning. And that was probably one of the crucial steps that we took, and that's really helped us be successful, is that we took this industry knowledge, this experience that we gained over the past 3 or 4 years fighting fires during the summers at university, and took that experience and that knowledge and applied it in building this new company. And we've had an incredible experience ever since, and we've really been able to find that fit for drones.
Where did drones first, like when you first got your contracts to fly your drones, what were the drones doing in terms of the fire?
Well, it's actually funny, but kind of what we were doing then laid the blueprint for actually what we're doing now today. So still I'd say 99% of the work that we do with wildfire agencies is focused on infrared scanning and mapping. So finding the heat on the fire line landscape and providing that information back to firefighters. Specifically using infrared or thermal sensors. Now this has come with a lot of back-end work. We've developed our own data analytics software tool to be able to do it, and really having specialized crews that are designed to work in those emergency response environments.
Now the first drones that you flew, I remember they were like this big, and you brought them in, you lost a couple along the way. And then I haven't seen Robert for probably 6 months now. He's living in Victoria. And when I asked him, when I saw him today, if we could film a little something, he said, well, is there a dolly I can bring our drone in? And I had to shake my head a little bit because I've never seen a drone that wasn't about yay big in person. So those first ones were real small. What does a drone like this do?
Yeah, so this is really, since the beginning, we've been trying to find different types of value for drones on fire landscapes. And really the value proposition up until this point has been that infrared scanning piece. But just this year, and just a few months ago, we formed a partnership with a company out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And they develop an aerial ignition device that's very specific for drone applications. And so we met them in Ottawa in November, and then in January I flew down to meet them, and we formed a partnership to not only offer aerial ignition services with a drone, but also to be their Canadian distributors. And so that's what you see here today.
But help me out a little bit here. When you talk about drone ignition, I think about lighting fires. You've been focused on putting fires out, or at least finding where hotspots are. Maybe you can help us out a little bit with what ignition means.
Exactly. So it means exactly what it sounds. Is that in fact now we are going to be lighting fires? Okay. So it's funny, and a lot of people are still kind of unaware of this, but applying fire to the landscape is actually one of the main ways that firefighters actually combat and suppress wildfires. By burning off existing fuel lines, they actually decrease the available fuel for the incoming out-of-control wildfire.
So it's a prevention method.
It's a prevention method by using controlled fire against wildfire.
Okay, so I can move out of the way. If you want to explain what those balls are inside.
Absolutely. So
Let's shuffle around here.
this is the this is the Ignis tube. It's inside of this hopper device here. We have these balls, and these are called dragon eggs. They're made by a company here in BC, actually in Burnaby, called SEI. And these dragon eggs, they look kind of like ping pong balls or paintballs, but they're filled with a chemical called potassium permanganate. And potassium permanganate, when injected with glycol or antifreeze, actually ignites the ball. So what we do is we fly along, and as we're flying, we're dropping these balls from the bottom of the hopper. And
I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see a little bit better. Yeah, go ahead, keep going. Right?
And as we are dropping these balls, we are injecting them with glycol the moment that they're released, and as they fall to the ground, they ignite. The glycol is stored here in this compartment, and this can carry about 450 of these dragon eggs. So it's a really exciting new application, and it's something that we're hoping wildfire agencies can find some value in terms of the way that they're currently conducting their controlled ignitions.
Well, that's pretty incredible. When I first saw it, I was thinking to myself the movie Twister, when they had all the little balls go up in the air in a tornado so they could get the rooms inside there. But this is doing the opposite. It's dropping fire eggs to get something going to prevent things. If you could look into your crystal ball, because you've entered it when people thought, well, what could a drone do in a fire landscape? And you've taken vision, you've tried new things, you've innovated constantly. If you could look 5 years further ahead, where do you see drones playing a role in fire prevention and possibly even firefighting?
Yeah, so I think what we've seen up to this point is that drones have really played a big role when it comes to supplementing work that's already being done with helicopters. So whether that's infrared scanning or aerial ignition, these two tasks are already done by helicopters. And so if we continue down this path, and as payload capacities of drones increase, I wouldn't be surprised, and it might not be 5 years down the road, but I certainly can see a situation where we start having autonomous water delivery on the fire line from drones. Now, of course, this is a ways down the road, but I really think that as we look at the cost-saving opportunities and the safety benefits of using drones, that I think that's a path that's likelier than not to be taken.
So with a unit like this, I know with igniting fire lines before, you put people out into the field, and you mentioned to me earlier that this can still fly at night if the conditions were right and start a burn.
Absolutely.
And it would be completely accurate as well as it's deploying.
Totally. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of accuracy involved in this, especially when it comes to supporting the operations of crews. So when you have a big uncontrolled column of smoke and fire, there's a lot of convective air being pulled into that. Essentially, fires are creating their own weather systems. And so when you're igniting fire on the landscape, what you're doing is you're allowing that convective column to pull that newly introduced fire into it. So it pulls it towards it, burning away the fuel that it would otherwise reach. So the goal with something like this, and one application for this, is as crews are hand lighting these lines, is to fly our drones with the Ignis 2 about maybe 100 meters further into the fire than they are, to create an initial convective force to pull those fire lines that are being created by drones or by humans into it.
Oh, well, very interesting. Well, this keeps along with the same theme that really what we're seeing with companies that are growing and doing better, they're all becoming very innovative. You look at firefighting now moving into full tech mode to help our province keep from having disastrous years like we had a little while back. With any industry, innovation is the key. So finding new and better ways of doing things will keep us growing and keep us safer and happier along the way. Thank you. This is great.
John, my pleasure.
4
Thanks,
feet
man.
over to get across. Have a wonderful time and good luck with the fires.
You as well. Thanks a lot.